Okay, guys, earlier Ubo, so we are back. It's a new month, it's middle of the year, it's a new week. I have a good video prepared. Without wasting no time, let's get into today's video. So today's video is gonna be a little bit different from what I normally do on the channel. This one is going to be a book review. So myself, I'm not much of a reader. I don't really read much. I'm more of like audio. I consume audio content than reading. But I had to take this book and read it because it's a history book. And also the reason I actually read this history book is that um, for me, in my high school years, I never liked history. It was like just too much to read. And my primary school, I came from a school where like English wasn't that good, so I had problems comprehending English. So in history books is like long stories and that like I would just lose focus. So I never paid attention to that. And also I decided already like by grade 9 that I was either gonna become an electrical engineer or an accountant or a chartered accountant. So I focused my energy more on my physics, accounting, and mathematics. History for me was a no. But fast forward, right after my university, I found myself consuming a lot of history content, South African history content to be specific. The history about the Zulu Kingdom, the Xhosa Nation, and one day I just got this light bulb in my brain that where is my people's history? So since that time, then I got that turnaround to start doing research on Namibian history, specifically the northern history, right? And lucky me, this year, beginning of this year, shout out to a friend Carlos, were having conversations about history, and then he presented to me a book, and he said, "Yo, there's a book here that talks about the northern history, specifically like the Kavango history." And the book goes for $250. You can, take it and go have a read. So I actually just finished reading the book yesterday, Saturday, the 7th of June. So I'm here now to decode what goes on in this nice history book. Now my camera is on selfie, so now the words might be a bit upside down, but the title of the book is Vamama's History and Heritage, Forgotten Histories of Namibia, book series number 1. So the book is written by a historian by the name Shampapi Shiremo. So Shampapi Shiremo is a qualified teacher from University of Namibia. He qualified in 2003. Between 2003 and 2006, he taught at Rundu and Shampapi Secondary School. And then in 2009, he obtained his master's degree in arts and history from the University of Namibia. And in 2013, he obtained his bachelor's of law B juris. And then between 2009 and 2010, he worked at the National Archives of Namibia as a project officer for the Archives of Anti-Colonial Resistance and the Liberation Struggle Project. And between 2012 and 2013, he taught at Commerce High School in Windhoek. From 2014 to date, he has the teaching. He's been teaching at Hockland High School in Windhoek, and he's head of Department for Humanities and Social Sciences. So since 2014, he had been also involved in part-time lecturing at University of Namibia and International University of Management. Shampapi Shiremo is a passionate historian who loves researching, reading, and writing on subject matters relating to history. Inter alia, he has published on the Vagwiriku Lishora massacre of 1894 and the resistance of Kavango traditional leaders in 1903 against the German colonial government and its agents. He's also an author of the Romanian novel entitled Mfudu Urodi. This title, Vamama's History and Heritage, are a book series that is intended to be published at least once annually as part of the author's contribution to educate the Namibian masses on their own past and culture. It's also intended to publicize the history of the history from the Kavango regions to a larger readership in Namibia and abroad. So for me, this book really just aligns also with this channel, the digital library, where we're just documenting content that can be used by generations to come. So sorry for that long introduction. I'm just gonna do a quick review of what happens in the book, and you can go and buy the book. I'll leave the author's contact details in the description, and then you can read it for yourself, and so you can tap into our history. So this book is a 6 chapter book, and I'm just gonna also read like the titles of the chapter. So chapter 1 is the establishment of Rundu as an administrative center of the Kavango regions in 1936. And then chapter 2 talks about the ascending reign, the position of Hompa Shampapi Mashika of the Wagiriku, and his flights into Angolan exile. And then chapter 3 is more about Vihiho. Vihiho, this is like um, the Kavango traditional headdresses and women career advancements, the past, the present, and the future. And then chapter 4 is the office of the residence of the Native Commissioner, Harold Nakare, Rundu's first modern building and the heritage and its significance. And then chapter 5 is it's a short biography of Maria Elizabeth Katiku, who was the first ever qualified doctor from the Kavango regions. The first ever qualified female doctors from the Kavango regions. And then lastly, chapter 6 just gives on a chronology of important events that are mentioned in the book. So while reading this book, most of the highlight is that the author highlights why places like Rundu were established. So Nkurenkuru used to be the initial capital of administration in the two Kavango regions, and then in roundabout in 1936, this office was then moved up to Kavango East, to Rundu, or yes, to go and establish this place now that we know as Rundu. So the reason behind this was that the administration that was based in Korenkuru, they were carrying out activities which were more of tax collection. So they go from traditional territory to traditional territory to collect taxes, right? And it took them so much time to travel from Korenkuru all the way to Eastern Kavango and be back, because during this time there were no roads, like proper roads and stuff. So I'm just gonna quote one of the letters that the native commissioner then sent to the head office in Windhoek, requesting to move his office to Rundu. So this is from an official report dated 30th July 1927. It highlights the troubles experienced and time spent by the official traveling from Kurenkuru all the way to Geriku. Okay. So the officer in charge of the native commissioner wrote to the secretary of the Southwest African Administration the following: I beg to inform you that I left this station, Korenkuru, on the 21st of June 1927 for Giriku. I arrived at the latter place on July 5th and remained there until July 14th, on which date I commenced the return journey to this station, Korenkuru, arriving here on July 24th. So once, therefore, that you can see that used to take them around about a month to travel from Korenkuru all the way to Giriku and be back. So he then requested that, let me move this office at least closer to the Giriku area, so which is more of like in the middle of the region, where he can be able to cover the Giriku areas, and then the Mbunza and the Ukwangali, which are in the western side. Okay, and yeah, so that's how he managed to go and set up in Rundu, and his house was literally the first ever building that was built there in Rundu, and then that's where they used to do all the recruitments for people who are going to Grootfontein to go and work like as cleaners in the army base, and so forth. Yeah, so that's more on the history of Rundu, but I can't, obviously I cannot go into details because the author prohibits the detailed publication of the content within the book. So you need to buy the book and read it for yourself. Um, there's so many stories here, colonial stories, how the chiefs were conquered, how also like how what is those chiefs are were used to be appointed in in a traditional way, and then the native commissioners came in and reshuffled the way appointment of chiefs is supposed to be done, which was against the original traditional way of appointing the chiefs. And then this book further goes on and touches on how religion was introduced in these two Kavango regions, um, being it from the Finnish missionaries and the Roman Catholic churches. What's so interesting is that the way religion actually got that side, or how people got to get in religion, is that those priests who were working at those missionary states, they would go house to house and prevent people from doing the traditional way of healing. So normally, if somebody was sick, they would like play drums for you until you get healed. So the missionaries wanted people to go to hospitals. So what they did is, if at night the priests will be walking around with whips, and if they hear drums being hit somewhere, they find you guys, you are assembled there doing your rituals, they will whip you. They'll whip you so you stop all those things, and so you can go out to the hospital and get treated and so forth. Not only does this book shine or bashes colonial idealism, but it also just shows or it tells stories on revolution. Like you can see, like back in the time, tax collection was a person had to drive to go house by house to collect tax. And now, if you look at now the way tax is collected, it's at the payroll level. Then the money is transferred straight to the state account, and now we also have roads now that connect from city to city, town to town. You know, back in the time, these roads were not there. So without this system of tax collection and all that, it was going to be so difficult to have modern roads that we see now that connect your Rundu to Nkurenkuru going up, your Rundu to your Grootfontein. So also the Grootfontein Rundu road, it's also being spoken in this book, how it came about. So do get a copy and read. I think one of the things I also wanted to touch on was the ladies' scarves that they used to wear, the traditional ladies' scarves that they used to wear. Um, the the colonial government was not having it. They didn't want the Kavango ladies to wear like that. So they came up with a schooling system, and they made sure that if you're going to be registered at the school, you need to cut your hair. And this was as back as in the 1930s, and that can still be seen in today's world, where I have friends who attended like missionary schools and Catholic schools. Ladies up to today, they still cut their hair before they go in the hostel. So that idealism, or that idea, dates to your early 1920s to early 1930s, right? So this is because the colonial government felt that the scarves that people had on were dirty, and if they wanted these people to be in the same place as them, they had to remove those things, which was heavily opposed. In the beginning, it was heavily opposed, but yeah, eventually, due to power, they were overpowered, and then eventually people had to go to yeah to go to school, and they had to cut their hair and so forth. Just that I also don't want to make this video too long. I would recommend anyone who's from the two Kavango regions, or anyone who's just interested, to get a copy of this book and just read it for yourself, understand where your history comes from. And this, most of us, we only caught up on history from maybe the time we were born, and a bit of history that you learn in school, and maybe your parents teaching you here and there. But it's worthwhile for you to connect all the gaps uh, from the Genesis. All right. So I hope this video has convinced you to read this book. And I would just want to give shout out to the author. I wish him more sales on the book, and I wish him strength to publish more of the series for this book. So, because this is like series number 1. Yeah, I'm just gonna end the video here for today. And if you want a copy of the book, I'm gonna put the contact details of the author in the description. And enjoy reading this book. So much knowledge in here. Thank you, Elia Ubot. So you guys must have a great week ahead. Cheers.